All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Raising the Flipping Bar. I'm your host, Derek Marlin, and we're excited to dive in today. We're going to talk about two critical components of, as we call it, property redevelopment, but it's essentially doing fix and flips. And it's going to be about finding deals and then how to properly analyze those deals. So I'll give you a quick framework of how we're going to structure this episode. The first thing we're going to talk about is the top 5 ways that we're finding deals right now as we wrap up 2023. And I think they'll be super effective into 2024. The other cool thing is it's what we're doing today. It's what I do. It's what my company does. So we're not the people that teach and don't do. We are much more of the do and then teach the results that we're getting, for good or for bad. Then we're going to jump into deal analysis and what we call 5-minute math. And that'll give us the ability to analyze tons of deals. So many people get trapped. They spend hours analyzing one deal and then the deal doesn't work. So that's a big waste of time. After that, we're going to get into where you're spending the most money. That's your major systems. Following that, we're going to talk about running the project the elevation way. So we're going to give you some really good high-level details on how to effectively manage a fix and flip. And then as we wrap, we're going to talk about doing some social media creation and overall content creation as a way to help you end up driving your business. So let's jump into today's episode. There'll also be some cool online resources that we'll put in the show notes. So check back to get yourself some extra help and give yourself a little bit of homework to do as well. Okay, so sourcing deals. What are we doing in today's environment right now? And I'm actually going to go straight up from the number one way we find deals to our 5th, let's call it most effective, but it's definitely stuff that we're doing today. This is how we're getting deals. Number 1 is real estate agents and referrals. I think a lot of investors shy away from working with real estate agents. And sometimes conversely, real estate agents think, oh, well, these damn investors, they're going to just get a screaming deal on my client's property and I'm going to get cut out of all these opportunities. That shouldn't be the way that it is. We really embrace working with real estate agents because if you think about it, real estate agents and realtors and professionals in that field are the folks that are around people making, buying, and selling decisions all the time. It would be like trying to manage your own finances and not talking to a financial planner. You can do it on your own. There's definitely ways that people can manage their money, but kind of making it back to and akin to real estate investing, why would we not talk to real estate agents? So what we do is we try to make it easiest on them. We try to make it most convenient for their clientele, and we make sure that they are compensated financially because nobody wants to do a bunch of work and not make any money. I think there's times when we can all jump into the education and providing value space to other people. But at the end of the day, people have to pay their bills too. So how do we do that? We are happy when agents bring us deals. We give them a couple different solutions. We give them the option to present a cash offer to their clients. If they've got that agreement, hopefully they're already going to be paid a commission to sell the property. If not, no big deal. We are happy to pay a hefty referral fee, which would be equal to whatever the commission would have been. So sometimes sellers do feel like they're getting this magically great deal if there's quote, I'm doing air quotes for those of you guys listening, if there's no commissions. That's really not the case. Everybody needs to be compensated. And then if they're an experienced real estate agent and they know what they're doing and we're comfortable with them listing our property on the back end, we definitely work with agents who will list our fix and flips on the back end. Yes, my company has an in-house team to do that, but to me, it's the abundance mindset and it's the growth mindset and how can we all grow together? So attend investor and agent meetups, real estate agent association meetups. So there's the Denver Metro Association of Realtors. There's associations all over Metro Denver and the surrounding counties. Get to know those real estate agents. Also jump on social media and see who is active and find ways to reach out and connect directly with them because the wider audience that you have and building your agent network, figure out how to do deals with them. Conversely, if you are an investor and you're not focusing on traditional real estate, be able to refer deals back to them. We do not do any traditional real estate with the exception of my agents that work for Elevation and are licensed. They might sell their mom's property or they might find a rental for their brother or sister or whatever, kind of that friends and family business. But traditional buying and selling, first-time home buyers, we don't do that. So we just refer that out to other agents that are great at that. And it's a great two-way street. So truly number one way that we get deals, both on market and off market, is working with real estate agents and having a great referral business. The second one is actually cold calling. So we have currently right now in the Denver metro market, I've got 2 full-time cold callers that are calling with an independent third-party company. And what they do is they call roughly 40 hours a week we are purchasing, I'll give you guys some data because as you know, I'm definitely kind of a data nerd. We are purchasing on average between $5,000 and $6,000 worth of data, meaning property addresses, that the third party company then goes and does skip tracing. And what that is they're essentially searching for all this information to try to find info for the homeowner. From that, we're able to pull on average about 100,000 or so property addresses, and we're able to get about contact information for roughly about 1/3 of that. And then kind of going down the funnel from there, they're making all those calls and they're calling people 5, 6, 7 times in any given 1 to 2 month period. From there, we then get the warm leads. So on average, we're receiving about in good months, we're getting 40 or 50 leads a month. In kind of slower months, we're getting between 20 to 25 leads per month. And from those leads, then my internal team takes over and we call those individual sellers. We then jump into giving them our 3 solutions, be it a cash offer. If the property is not a total disaster, we can list it if they really choose to, or we can do our partnership flip program. And from that, we're able to get, again, if we think we contact 300 people, we're getting about 100 people that are calling us back. We're getting good conversations with on average about 30 of those people. And then we can write 7 to 8 offers and get 1 to 2 deals under contract at any given point. So it really is a numbers game. I'm familiar with some other investors across the country and they really ramp this up. They've got, 6, 7, 8, 10 people cold calling. They've got local people cold calling. We personally find that's a little more effective than direct mail. I've done direct mail in the past, but I think you have to have a more expensive and wider budget to go as wide and as deep as you can and do it for a long period of time. So number 2 for us are cold callers. And the cool thing about that is it really helps you get off-market deals. Then number 3, old school, but it's door knocking. We actually, anytime we're doing a flip, whether it's a condo and flyering and truly knocking on doors of multiple levels of that condo complex, or if it's a neighborhood, we'll pick about a 3 or 4 block radius and we will flyer all of those properties. And it really accomplishes 2 things. One is it helps people know we're doing a project in your area. Typically it's the crappiest house or the crappiest, condo or property in the area. We're obviously fixing it up. We're helping their property values. And we are making sure we're very sensitive to contractors not working late, trash blowing all over the place, dumpsters that are overflowing. So if there's ever issues, I want them to call me. That also helps. It'll be future episode content, but so that the city and county isn't, giving us a hard time or even issuing fines to us. I want to head all that off at the pass. More importantly, it then says, oh, by the way, if you want to sell your property, we'll give you 3 options of how you could sell your property. If you have colleagues or friends or family or just referrals in general, then they can refer those people to you and they can earn a referral fee. So we pretty much tell everybody straight up, hey, if you want to earn a free, $1,500, just give us some contact information and we get deals. On average, we get 1 or 2 deals a year from doing flyering. You can then also work with what they call a bird dog. And that is a person who is, think of the person who's selling Comcast cable or security systems or whatever else, and they're doing door knocking. You can work with people like that and they will flyer different neighborhoods for you and try to generate leads for you. So you can make that a consistent lead flow process. For us, we really focus it on all the different flips that we're doing, because then we can say, oh yeah, we're working down the street at, 123 Main Street. The third one is, actually the fourth one, I should say, wholesalers. So we essentially are a wholesaler ourselves, meaning when we have too many deals going on at elevation, our current capacity right now is anywhere from 5 to 6 deals where we're using up our company capital. And that is kind of our staff bandwidth as well. We immediately then sell those properties off that we do get under contract to fellow investors, people that are in our Elevation Academy alumni network, and just other traditional cash buyers. So essentially working with wholesalers, and I kind of try to divide it up into 2 different buckets. The first bucket are small independent wholesalers, really companies like myself and other investors like ourselves. They're still flipping on their own, but they're not doing 20 or 30 deals a month. They might do, 4 or 5 deals a year, or we're trying to ramp ours up so that we're doing, 5 to 10 deals a month. That would be like a mid-sized wholesale company. If you're working with the large wholesalers out there in the Denver metro market, there are roughly 3 large wholesaling companies, meaning they have a staff of between 10 to 30 people that are acquisitions executives and real estate agents that are writing a ton of offers. Get to know the individual salesperson that you most connect with, have them hopefully learn your investment guidelines, and ideally only look at deals that fit your profile. Try not to. They're going to blow up your email. Don't look at a bunch of crappy deals that don't fit your investment guidelines. But again, it's all about working with that individual person. And the last one is actually social media and creating content. And so with that, it is getting your name out there, your business out there, your brand out there, so that when people do go to verify you and compare you to other investment options and other investors, then you're going to hopefully come to the top. It helps you from an SEO perspective. If traditional sellers are just saying, hey, how to sell my house fast for cash, then you're able to come up in a Google search. So that's really important. You can also then create ad content and you can advertise to people. So digital and social media is definitely something we're kind of in the infancy stages of it. We've been doing it for about 2 years now. And that's honestly how this podcast really evolved. But you got to be consistent about it. And you have to be a value provider. It's not just sucking leads out of the internet or not providing value to other people. It's, developing customized content and just doing it on a consistent basis. So those are our top 5 ways that we've been sourcing deals in 2023. And we're really not changing much in 2024. We're trying to double down and be as consistent as we can in those 5 areas. Now I want to jump into deal analysis. And I've got other episodes that go really deep just into our Elevation Deal Analyzer spreadsheet. But what I want to do for this episode is I want to hit 3 main things. Number 1, and the biggest takeaway is you have to analyze a lot of deals. You cannot go too far down the rabbit hole. So ideally, once you found the deals from our prior conversation, you then analyze these deals and you have to set up your investment guidelines. Right now, the 3 ways that we determine is this a good deal or not is dollars per day, which is the net profit that you're making on a deal, after every single expense divided by the number of days. So in general, we're trying to clear at least $450 per day in net profit per day. That's kind of our minimum. If it doesn't hit that, you either need a lower price or you need to move on to another property if the seller or the listing is firm on that price. The second thing is net profit. And that is, again, how much raw dollars are left in the deal after every expense has been paid. So for us, for condos and townhomes, our minimums on average are about $30,000 net profit for condos and townhomes. And on single family properties, our minimums are typically right around $50,000 net. So again, either 1, you have to get your property for a lower price to make sure that those numbers work, or 2, just move on to the next deal. The third one is ROI and return on investment. And what that is that's a percentage basis of how much money you're making. I always really look at those because to me, I come from a bond and stock background. And if you can invest in your money in the market and it's more liquid than real estate because it takes time to flip properties, you need to be making a greater return. So on average, we're looking for an absolute minimum of an 8% return on investment. I normally will do those for condos because we can churn them a lot faster. Our minimum ROI for single family properties or larger townhomes is 10% minimum. So if they don't check those boxes, you need to go on to the next deal. And so really what we're looking at is giving you the opportunity to look at volume, meaning a lot of deals. We run our deal analyzer. We should be able to look at deals in a 5-minute period. And if it works, great, you can dive deeper. If not, you just got to move on. So we're analyzing whether they're on-market deals or off-market deals, as many properties as humanly possible. What you don't want to do is don't play designer, meaning don't look at pictures and say, oh, well, I'm going to change these cabinets and I'm going to knock down this wall. That doesn't matter. The numbers have to work first. You have to get a competitive offer and you have to do as much volume analysis as humanly possible. So that's the big takeaway on analyzing deals. Then we want to jump into major systems. So once you've analyzed the deal in the spreadsheet, you're saying, okay, on paper, it gives you 3 green boxes on the 3 investment metrics we just talked about. And then you got to figure out, okay, how am I building out the rehab budget? And what I always teach in my in-person classes is when we go to, let's say, a classic wholesaler open house where there's 7 or 8 investors, we're all walking around trying to figure out how much is this thing going to cost and do we want to buy it and move forward. People immediately go to the kitchens. They start counting kitchen cabinets. They start counting the hardware or the knobs on the kitchen doors, the cabinet doors, and figure out, they're wasting their time on a $3 expense or maybe a $300 expense for a cabinet itself. You need to focus on these 5 major systems, because these 5 areas that I'm talking about are going to typically take up 60% of your budget. So again, it's not all the aesthetic stuff. Yes, that's important, and that does help sell the home. But if these other things are shot, again, you go back to, you got to get the property for a lower price, or you move on and you go on to the next deal. So structural repairs are typically number 1 in importance and also number 1 in budget of where you can spend your money. On average, and I know these are wide ranges, but it really just depends upon the level of severity of how much you have to fix these things up. In our world, in Metro Denver, you're spending between $10,000 and $25,000 on significant structural repairs. That's not, think of Denver basements, for example. You go into a basement, it's in a utility room. You've got those little windows that we all used to sneak out of when we were young, growing up, or at least I did, dating myself. And they've got little hairline cracks. That's not a big deal. We're talking about stuff that is as wide as your pinky that you can stick your pinky through. Those are major structural components. And so you've got to spend money to fix those up. Then you jump to roof and to windows. That stuff is together going to, cost you between $15,000 and $30,000. Obviously, again, depends upon the size of the house, the scope of repair and what you're doing, but you're going to spend a bunch of money on doing new roofs and putting in new windows. Sewer lines are a big one as well. You're going to spend between $5,000 and $15,000, even up to $20,000 for a long sewer line in a suburban property. Those are things that new buyers are not going to be okay with if they're broken. So you got to do sewer scopes on every single property is always our guidance and advice. Even when we wholesale, we're doing sewer line camera inspections and we're doing roof inspections. You're going to spend a decent chunk of change on those because you just can't sell it on the back end without having them fixed if there are issues. Then asbestos, the A word, as they call it. The tough thing about asbestos is properties that are typically pre-1970, you definitely are in that range for asbestos, up until about the 1940s to 1950s. Before that, there really wasn't as much asbestos. But yeah, kind of that 1950 through 1980, you're definitely in the zone for asbestos. And again, that's probably a $5,000 or $6,000 expense for, let's say, ductwork that's wrapped in asbestos versus a $25,000 to $30,000 expense if you've got it in the drywall, if you've got tons of it in flooring where you have to chip stuff up, it becomes unencapsulated, meaning particles get in the air. That's where you're spending a bunch of money. And the last thing is major systems, HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. So those are things that we're normally updating to get top dollar, and you're spending between 15 to 30 grand all in for those 3 systems. So if you kind of did super quick math and your house is a total disaster that you're looking at and everything's 30 years old, you're spending, on average 50 to 100 grand for those major systems. And then you're doing the nice stuff on top of it. So that's where you're spending an extra 25 to 50 grand. So when you're analyzing deals and somebody sends you a ranch that has 1,000 square feet on the main level, 1,000 square feet in the basement, and they're like, oh, it's a cosmetic remodel and the rehab budget's 30 grand, but you can see that the roof is shot and it has super old windows, there's no way those numbers are going to work. So again, either get it for a better price or move on to the next one. Let's talk about how do we manage our projects. Then building out the budget is you're going to want to figure, after you've done the high level analysis, you've figured out where those major systems are falling as far as what you have to do for repairs. You dive a little deeper into how are we fixing up the kitchens and the bathrooms? How are we doing flooring? Are we reconfiguring bedrooms? You're going to build out your spreadsheet. For our clients, we have a really detailed spreadsheet, but I'll give you some good cheat codes. Right now in Metro Denver, we're spending $45 a square foot for cosmetic remodels, and we're spending $65 a square foot for full flips. And I'll give you a little context to that. The cosmetic truly means that all the major systems we just talked about are newer than 5 years old. So if something's 10 or 15 years old, you're probably going to have to replace it. And I know people are like, well, roof can last for 20 or 30 years. Yeah, it can. But where people kind of go sideways is we're trying to push the price on a fixed up house. We are usually setting the record on comparable sales. And, or I should say, in comparison to comps, we're usually pushing the price point. And so people just don't want a 20-year-old roof on a fix and flip type home. On the full rehabs, that $65 a square foot, normally in the projects that we're doing, not everything is shot. So in one example, you might have a busted sewer line and a roof that you need to replace. but the rest of the systems are good. In another one, you might need a new electrical panel. You need to put in egress windows and maybe do some structural repairs. That on average is encapsulating about $65 a square foot. We're also, if you're doing $1 million flips, meaning you're selling your properties for between $1 and $2 million, you're probably going to add on another good $10 to $15 a square foot because you need to put in nicer, higher levels of quality materials and products to make sure that that property sells. So again, quick math, quick analysis. Once you've got your budget built, then you go into the statement of work. And so with that, it gives you the ability to draft exactly what you want done in the property. It gives you the ability to work with contractors and get what we call apples to apples bids, meaning two side-by-side comparisons that they're both bidding the same amount of work. It's not fair and it's a waste of your time if you get two super different numbers, but one contractor has 30 line items that they're going to fix and one has 15. It's not the same comparison. The last way that we run projects is we teach a whole separate class on this, but we actually use software on Monday.com. And we have about a 105-step system on how do we fix up these properties. Again, I wanted to give you kind of a quick overall viewpoint and vantage point of what we're doing until we get to the last stage, which is how do we pick out what we're going to use to fix up the property. And that's what we call our fixture and finish package. So right now we're actually doing a really cool flip on a property that we're going to list for over $1 million. It's in the Sloan's Lake neighborhood, which is a great neighborhood in Metro Denver. And it's more of a mid-century modern type style of property. So we just created a 7th fixture and finish package for that type of property, but you don't want to, custom design every single property. Maybe if you're doing one a year and that's kind of your passion, I guess that's okay. But I like to talk to the people that value their time, that value their investment, return on investment, I should say. And you don't want to reinvent the wheel every single time. So give yourself some latitude to do some cool design things, but for the most part, rinse and repeat. We personally update things once a year so that it is fresh going into the next year, but you're going to want to dial in your fixture and finish package. So as we kind of wrap up this episode, what I really want to hit home on is how to find good deals, which we talked about. Really next year, going into 2024, I would implore people to pick 1 or 2 areas, whether it's the 5 that we just mentioned, or maybe you're big on doing paid advertising on radio or TV or advertising on podcasts, or maybe you're big into hosting your own meetup or doing client appreciation events. Whatever it is, I think you need to double down and go deep, meaning consistently do these type of activities, do them for a long amount of time, add value to other people instead of doing 15 things kind of half-assed. That's obviously not the best idea. And I've been talking to a lot of guests on season 2 of this podcast. And what they're saying, and I totally agree with this, is there's going to be people that are not going to be in the business. And so it's time to take market share. So stay consistent, stay deep on your marketing endeavors and trying to find deals. And then go to volume type of analysis. So you can't analyze too many deals, but what you want to avoid is diving deep, spending 2 or 3 hours looking at every single picture, trying to plan everything out, because people like me have probably already written 5 offers, or my team has already written 5 offers. So those are my big takeaways, again, on finding good deals, analyzing good deals, and then definitely some high-level stuff on how to run them so that you can crank out and create a very effective system. So hope you guys found value from today's episode. We would love to engage with you again. So there's definitely stuff in the show notes where you can like, subscribe, and follow, but please engage with us. And thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side.